They weren't just movie stars, they were living monuments of muscle, the bronze gods of the silver screen, titans of an era that celebrated physical perfection with an almost religious fervor. In an age before protein shakes, steroids, and digital enhancement, these men built their bodies the hard way, under blazing sun, in dusty gyms, in the crucible of sport and sweat. They were gladiators in tailored suits, matinee idols with the raw power to crush a villain or lift a damsel with one arm. They represented something that transcended entertainment, something that spoke to the very heart of what it meant to be strong, disciplined, and unstoppable. This is the story of old Hollywood's most sculpted legends, the real-life strongmen who turned muscle into myth, who inspired generations, and who proved that greatness wasn't built in a laboratory, but forged through dedication and will. Steve Reeves, the Hercules who walked among us. Before superheroes ruled the box office, before the Marvel Cinematic Universe dominated global culture, there was Steve Reeves, a man whose very silhouette could have been chiseled from marble by the ancient Greeks themselves. Born in Montana in 1926, Reeves grew from a lanky farm boy into one of the most celebrated natural bodybuilders of his era, winning the coveted Mr. Universe title in 1950, an achievement that seemed to validate his journey from humble beginnings to athletic greatness. But his destiny wasn't just the stage with its blazing lights and adoring crowds. It was the screen, the medium through which legends are immortalized for eternity. When Italian filmmakers went searching for their perfect Hercules, the embodiment of the mythological hero, Reeves fit the role so completely it seemed as if the ancient myths had leapt into flesh and blood. In Hercules in 1958 and Hercules Unchained in 1959, his powerful frame, his regal bearing, and his calm, commanding presence captivated audiences worldwide, turning him into an international sensation. Unlike many strongmen before him, Reeves combined size with symmetry, brute strength with elegant proportion, creating a physique that seemed almost too perfect to be real. Off-screen, he was known for his unwavering discipline and his refusal to compromise his natural approach to training, a philosophy that set him apart in an industry increasingly willing to cut corners. He inspired millions not just to watch greatness, but to strive for it themselves, to pick up a weight and begin their own transformation. In an era before digital trickery and movie magic, every feat of strength you witnessed on screen was truly his, executed by his own hands and powered by his own muscles. To this day, Steve Reeves stands as the gold standard of what a Hollywood strongman could be. A legend larger than life yet entirely real, a man who proved that with vision and dedication, the impossible becomes inevitable. Reg Park, the bodybuilder who became a titan. If Steve Reeves was the Hercules who opened the gates of epic cinema, Reg Park was the titan who marched through them with unstoppable force. Born in Leeds, England in 1928, Park was already a natural athlete when he discovered the world of bodybuilding, recognizing in it a canvas upon which he could paint his dreams. With a work ethic forged in the grit of post-war England, he built a physique so massive and powerful it seemed almost impossible for the time, a body that challenged the very limits of human physical potential. Broad shoulders like fortress walls, arms like sculpted steel, a chest that could stop traffic. After winning the Mr. Universe title 3 times, a feat that placed him among the elite of his generation, Park turned his sights to the big screen, where the demands were even greater than any contest stage. Italian cinema once again called for a demigod, and Park answered without hesitation, starring in Hercules and the Captive Women in 1961, and a string of sword and sandal epics that would define an era of filmmaking. On screen, he didn't just look the part, he owned it with an authority that radiated from deep within. His presence commanded raw strength, yet carried an unmistakable dignity that elevated him above mere spectacle. Beyond the camera lights, Park became a mentor and an icon in the bodybuilding world, famously inspiring a young Arnold Schwarzenegger to pursue his dreams, becoming the roadmap for the Austrian Oak's unprecedented rise. His training philosophy was simple but unyielding, uncompromising in its demands. Lift heavy, train hard, live with purpose. Reg Park wasn't just an actor or even just a champion bodybuilder. He was the living embodiment of strength, both in body and in iron will. A man who understood that true power comes from complete commitment. Gordon Scott, Tarzan with the heart of a warrior. In the mid-1950s, the jungle had a new king, and he didn't just swing from vines. He commanded the screen with sheer physical power that left audiences breathless. Gordon Scott, born in Portland, Oregon in 1926, was an ex-lifeguard whose towering 6'3" frame and athletic build caught the attention of Hollywood scouts searching for their next great action hero. When he stepped into the role of Tarzan, he brought with him a blend of muscle and agility rarely seen on the silver screen, a combination that seemed almost superhuman in its execution. Scott's Tarzan was fundamentally different from what audiences had come to expect. Gone was the grunting, primitive wild man of earlier decades that had defined previous interpretations. This was a thinking hero, strong yet articulate, intelligent yet powerful, a protector as much as a fighter. His physique, honed through years of disciplined training and athletic preparation, was not just for show, but served a functional purpose. Whether wrestling crocodiles in the water or swinging through dense jungle canopies, Scott performed his stunts with the grace of an athlete and the confidence of a champion, executing movements that seemed impossible, yet utterly natural in his hands. When his vine-swinging days were done, Scott journeyed to Italy with the sword and sandal boom, where his gladiator's build welcomed new roles and new challenges. From jungle hero to ancient warrior, he carried the same commanding presence wherever he went. A man who looked as though he had stepped straight from the pages of an adventure novel into the world's most dazzling stage, old Hollywood itself. Johnny Weissmuller, the Olympian who became king of the jungle. Before he was Tarzan, before he became synonymous with the jungle hero, Johnny Weissmuller was already a legend inscribed in the annals of athletic greatness. Born in 1904 in what was then Austria-Hungary, he rose from humble beginnings to dominate the world of competitive swimming, a sport that would test every limit of human endurance. By the time he hung up his swim cap, Weissmuller had won 5 Olympic gold medals, 1 bronze, and set dozens of world records, feats that earned him the title of the fastest swimmer alive, a distinction few could ever claim. Hollywood took notice of this remarkable athlete and recognized the potential that lay dormant beneath his championship surface. In 1932, he was cast as Tarzan, and overnight, Weissmuller became the definitive face and physique of the jungle hero, a role so perfectly suited to his talents that it seemed destiny itself had written the script. With his broad chest, powerful arms, and effortless athleticism, he performed stunts that looked as natural as breathing, movements that flowed with the ease of someone born to the role. His famous jungle yell became a cinematic trademark, a sound that would echo through theaters worldwide and become forever associated with the character. But it was his commanding physical presence that made audiences truly believe this man ruled the wild with absolute authority. For 12 films, Weissmuller swung from vines, dived from towering cliffs, and fought Hollywood's most fearsome beasts, all without a stunt double in sight, all executed with his own 2 hands and body. Off-screen, he carried himself with the same quiet confidence that defined his characters, a man comfortable in his own skin and secure in his abilities. To this day, Johnny Weissmuller is remembered not just as a Tarzan, but as the Tarzan, the athlete-turned-actor who brought muscle, grace, and a dash of myth to the silver screen. Buster Crabbe, the all-American hero of land, sea, and space. Clarence Lynn Buster Crabbe didn't just play heroes, he lived like one in every sense of the word. Born in 1908 in Oakland, California, Crabbe was a gifted swimmer who followed in Johnny Weissmuller's wake, winning Olympic gold in the 400-meter freestyle at the 1932 Los Angeles Games, his home state's showcase of athletic excellence. His athleticism and chiseled build made him a natural for the cameras, and Hollywood soon came calling with offers and opportunities. Crabbe's career became a whirlwind of adventure roles that would define his entire professional trajectory. He was Tarzan in the 1933 serial Tarzan the Fearless, taking on the mantle after Weissmuller had already made his mark. But his greatest fame came as 2 of science fiction's most enduring champions, Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, characters that would be forever linked with his name. On screen, His muscular frame and confident stance gave life to heroes who could wrestle monsters, duel space villains, and still flash a roguish smile for the audience. Heroes who embodied heroism in its purest form. What set Crabbe apart was his remarkable versatility, his ability to adapt and excel in any role that was presented to him. Whether wearing a loincloth in the jungle or a ray gun holster in the cosmos, he projected the same physical command, the same hero's bearing, forged through years of discipline and sport. To millions of young moviegoers in the 1930s and 1940s, Buster Crabbe wasn't just another actor in the grand scheme of things. He was the embodiment of adventure itself, the living proof that a true champion could conquer not just the earth, but the stars themselves. Charles Atlas, the man who made the world want to be strong. Long before the modern fitness industry existed as we know it today, long before gyms became ubiquitous and personal trainers became status symbols, one man's name became synonymous with physical perfection and transformation. Charles Atlas, born Angelo Siciliano in Italy in 1892, arrived in America as a small, skinny immigrant boy, bullied and weak. Determined to transform himself completely, he studied the physiques of ancient Greek statues and set out to match them muscle for muscle, learning from history's greatest examples. Through sheer determination and his now famous dynamic tension training method, a revolutionary approach to resistance training, Atlas built a body so balanced and powerful that he was crowned the world's most perfectly developed man in the 1920s. His physique wasn't just about raw size and mass, it was about proportion, grace, and a timeless aesthetic that seemed carved in stone by master sculptors. Hollywood embraced him not as a leading man in dramatic films, but as an icon, a symbol of transformation and possibility. He made appearances, posed for promotional reels, and became the face of fitness for millions, the standard against which all others were measured. His mail-order courses promised transformation to anyone willing to put in the work, and his advertisements, the legendary 97-pound weakling comic strip, became cultural landmarks that defined an entire era. Charles Atlas didn't just sell a body or a training method. He sold an idea that strength, discipline, and confidence were within reach for anyone willing to commit, a message that resonated across generations. In an era of glamour and spectacle, he was the real deal, authentic and genuine, a man who turned muscle into a movement that changed how people viewed physical fitness. Victor Mature, the colossus of the biblical epics. Victor Mature was a different kind of leading man, a different caliber of strength. Born in Louisville, Kentucky in 1912, Mature possessed a commanding physical presence that seemed made for the expansive, spectacular epics that defined mid-century Hollywood. Standing at 6'2" with a naturally muscular build, Mature brought a gravitas and physicality to roles that demanded more than just good looks. While some dismissed him as merely attractive, those who worked with him knew better. His roles in The Robe, Samson, and Delilah, and the Ten Commandments showcased a man whose physical presence could anchor entire narratives. What distinguished Mature was his ability to convey strength without needing to constantly demonstrate it, a quiet confidence that radiated from within. In the gladiatorial scenes where his Samson battled his enemies, or in moments where raw power was required, Mature delivered with a physical authority that made audiences believe he was truly capable of the superhuman feats his characters performed. His dedication to physical training for these roles was meticulous and demanding, a commitment to authenticity that elevated his performances. Rory Calhoun, the rugged frontiersman of the silver screen. Rory Calhoun embodied the idealized Western hero in a way few could match, a man whose physical presence seemed born from the landscape itself. Born Francis Timothy Durgan in 1922 in Los Angeles, Calhoun developed into a strikingly handsome actor with a lean, muscular build that seemed perfect for roles demanding raw physicality. His extensive work in cowboy films and adventure serials demonstrated not just strength, but agility and toughness. What made Calhoun special was his authenticity, a quality that audiences could instinctively sense. He conducted himself with the confidence of someone who had truly lived the kind of adventures most actors only pretended to perform. For audiences of the 1950s and 1960s, Rory Calhoun was the real deal, the cowboy hero you could actually believe could ride into town, set things right, and ride out without a scratch, standing taller than the rest. Glenn Morris, the decathlete who swung into legend. Glenn Morris was the very definition of an all-around athlete, a man who could run, jump, throw, and lift with the best in the world. Born in the small farming community of Simla, Colorado in 1912, Morris grew up doing hard physical labor, the kind that builds character and physical foundation. This demanding childhood built a natural foundation of strength and endurance that would serve him throughout his life. That raw ability led him to track and field, where he quickly rose through the ranks, excelling in the most demanding event of them all, the decathlon, a test of complete athletic mastery. In 1936, Morris traveled to Berlin to compete in the Summer Olympics, an event that would define his legacy. Under the gaze of the watching world, he delivered a performance for the ages, winning gold, setting a new world record, and earning the title of the world's greatest athlete. His combination of speed, power, and stamina was unmatched, and his victory became a point of pride for the United States during politically charged games fraught with tension. Hollywood soon came calling, drawn to the idea of casting a real-life Olympic champion as a screen hero, recognizing the box office power of authentic greatness. In 1938, Morris donned the iconic loincloth for Tarzan's Revenge. Though it would be his only outing as the Jungle Lord, his powerful frame and athletic grace made an immediate and lasting impression. When Morris swung through the trees or dove into the river, it wasn't stunt trickery or elaborate effects work. It was the genuine movement of a world-class athlete executing the physical demands with the precision he'd developed through years of competition. While his time in the Hollywood spotlight was brief, Glenn Morris left behind a legacy as one of the rare men who truly was the hero he played. Strong, fast, fearless, and authentic, he brought the legitimacy of the arena to the silver screen, cementing his place among old Hollywood's most formidable figures. Mike Henry, the gridiron giant who became Tarzan. Mike Henry was a man built for impact, whether on the football field or the silver screen. Born in Los Angeles in 1936, he was a natural athlete from the start, excelling in multiple sports before finding his true calling in football. Standing 6'2" and weighing over 220 pounds of lean muscle, Henry wasn't just big, he was fast, agile, and explosive, a combination that made him nearly unstoppable. That unique combination made him a standout linebacker in the NFL, first with the Pittsburgh Steelers and later with the Los Angeles Rams, where he earned a reputation as one of the most intimidating players on the field. On the gridiron, he was known for his ferocity, his bone-rattling tackles that could shake an entire crowd, and his unshakable presence that commanded respect from opponents and teammates alike. Hollywood eventually came knocking at his door, recognizing the untapped potential in his commanding frame and natural charisma. In the mid-1960s, Henry traded shoulder pads for a loincloth, a transition that surprised some but seemed inevitable to others. Cast as Tarzan in 3 films, Tarzan and the Valley of Gold in 1966, Tarzan and the Great River in 1967, and Tarzan and the Jungle Boy in 1968, he brought to the role a physical presence unlike any before him. Broad-shouldered, square-jawed, and carrying the kind of muscle you can't fake or manufacture, Henry's Tarzan looked every bit the apex predator of the jungle, a being at the top of the food chain. His portrayal was more than just muscle and intimidation, though. Henry gave Tarzan a quiet intelligence, a noble calm, and the authority of a man completely in command of his world and environment. When he swung through the vines or dove into the rapids, audiences believed this was a figure who could truly survive and thrive in the wild with complete confidence. Off-screen, he carried the same discipline and toughness that had made him a football star, earning the deep respect of co-stars and crews alike. Mike Henry may have worn the mantle of Tarzan for only a few years, but he left behind one of the most commanding and physically imposing portrayals of a character ever filmed, a true giant of both the jungle and the gridiron. Johnny Sheffield, from Jungle Boy to screen adventurer. Johnny Sheffield grew up before the eyes of moviegoers, his childhood and adolescence unfolding on movie screens worldwide. First as a child, then as a young man, always in the heart of the jungle, always performing physical feats that seemed impossible for someone so young. Born in Pasadena, California in 1931, Sheffield was already athletic and fearless by the time Hollywood found him at a young age. At just 8 years old, he was chosen from hundreds of hopefuls to play Boy, the adopted son of Johnny Weissmuller's Tarzan in Tarzan Finds a Son in 1939, beginning a film career that would define his entire childhood. Even as a child, Sheffield had a sturdy, muscular build and a natural ease with physical stunts that belied his young age. He swung from vines, dived from great heights, and wrestled alongside Weissmuller in some of the most action-packed moments of the Tarzan series. Audiences loved the father and son dynamic, the relationship between the established hero and the young apprentice learning the ways of the jungle. Sheffield appeared in 8 Tarzan films over the next 7 years, literally growing into a strong and athletic teenager on screen before millions of viewers. When his Tarzan chapter closed, Sheffield wasn't ready to hang up the jungle gear and disappear into obscurity. In 1949, he took on the lead role in Bomba, The Jungle Boy, a new adventure series that spanned 12 films and would become the centerpiece of his film career. Now the central hero rather than the sidekick, Sheffield showcased the full measure of his physical presence, lean, tanned, and agile, with the confident bearing of someone who had been doing stunts since early childhood. Whether leaping into rivers or trekking through dense foliage, he made it all look effortless and natural. Though he left acting in his 20s, choosing a different path for his life, Johnny Sheffield remains a unique figure in old Hollywood history. A performer who spent nearly his entire career in the adventure genre, growing from Jungle Boy to Jungle Man before an entire generation of moviegoers worldwide. His strength, agility, and fearless spirit kept him a favorite in the action serial tradition long after the final vine had been swung. Jack LaLanne, the godfather of modern fitness, long before the age of workout DVDs, protein powders, and gym chains that line every street corner. There was one man who brought physical fitness into America's living rooms and into its collective conscience. Jack LaLanne, born in San Francisco in 1914, wasn't always the picture of health and vitality. As a boy, he described himself as weak and sickly, plagued by health issues that seemed to define his early years, until a single lecture on nutrition and exercise transformed his entire life and set him on a new path. From that day forward, LaLanne dedicated himself to building strength, vitality, and a personal philosophy of lifelong fitness that would influence millions. By the 1930s, he had developed a physique that was not only powerful, but enduring, muscles that could work hard for extended periods, and a stamina that seemed absolutely endless. He opened one of the nation's first modern gyms in Oakland in 1936, introducing resistance machines, nutrition guidance, and training principles that were decades ahead of their time. His charisma and remarkable physical feats soon drew media attention, and in 1951, The Jack LaLanne Show hit the airwaves, becoming a cultural phenomenon. For over 3 decades, viewers tuned in to watch the energetic host lead calisthenics, give practical health advice, and perform astonishing displays of strength and endurance. LaLanne swam handcuffed across bays, towed boats loaded with passengers, and completed challenges that would exhaust men half his age, all to prove his central thesis that fitness was the key to a vibrant, capable life. Jack LaLanne wasn't just another strong man or fitness guru. He was a teacher, a showman, and a living testament to his own message, practicing what he preached. Until his final years, he practiced what he preached, maintaining a combination of clean living, relentless exercise, and an unshakable belief that the human body at any age could be pushed to greatness and beyond. In the golden age of Hollywood and beyond, he stood as proof that strength was not just for the screen. It was for life itself, for everyone, forever. From the golden glow of the silver screen to the living rooms of America, these remarkable men proved that strength is timeless, transcending generations and fads. They were more than actors or athletes in the traditional sense. They were symbols of determination, discipline, and the enduring human spirit, embodying qualities that audiences instinctively recognized and admired. Their muscles may have been built in gyms, on playing fields, or in the wilds of adventure, but their real power came from the way they inspired audiences then and continue to inspire us today. They showed us that transformation is possible, that dedication produces results, and that true strength comes from within. If you enjoyed this journey through Hollywood's mightiest legends, give this video a like. It helps keep these incredible stories alive and circulating. Subscribe for more tales of classic cinema and the iconic figures who defined it during Hollywood's greatest era. And tell us in the comments which of these old Hollywood strongmen is your absolute favorite, or who you think should be featured on our next list. Until next time, keep your head high, your spirit strong, and your love for the classics burning bright like the lights of old Hollywood.